The workshop hummed like a heart with too many pacemakers. Sparks leapt from the fusion welder in my hand, casting quick electric shadows across the silver curves of the alien armor stretched out on the table before me. I'd spent 12 years in the salvage colonies repairing everything from starship engines to scavenged prosthetics, but never anything like this. The armor belonged to her, Lieutenant Sarivan of the Kareth Dominion, a warrior from a species the Terran Federation had been at war with for nearly a century. The ceasefire had been signed 2 months ago, though peace was a generous word for it. The Kareth were still keeping to their own sectors, licking wounds, rebuilding. So was humanity. And yet, there she was, standing quietly in my workshop, head bowed, silver-blue skin faintly reflecting the light of the plasma torches. Her armor lay before me, cracked, burned, bent inward from what must have been a direct impact. The faint organic shimmer running across its surface made it feel alive. It wasn't just a machine. It was part of her. I tried to focus on the weld line on the way the metal, if you could call it that, rearranged itself under the field manipulator. But my eyes kept flicking back to her. She wasn't moving, barely breathing. Your neural thread link. I began, then stopped myself. She had told me not to speak unless necessary. The Kareth were notoriously private, especially about their armor. It was sacred to them, grown, not built. Still, the silence in the room pressed on me. Finally, I said softly, "This damage, it's more than a battlefield hit. Something ripped this open from the inside." Her head lifted. 2 silver irises, faintly glowing, locked onto mine. "Repair it," she said, voice calm, melodic, but weighted. "Do not ask how." That was the first time I noticed it, the smallest quiver at the corner of her lip. A shimmer in her eyes, almost invisible beneath the glow. I thought it was just reflection from the welder at first. But as I powered down the tool and stepped closer, I realized what I was seeing. She was crying. Silently. The tears glided down her skin in perfect spheres, hovering briefly before evaporating into thin mist. Her species didn't cry with liquid tears, I remembered reading once. They released charged plasma droplets, a biochemical reaction tied to extreme emotional distress. It was rare enough that most humans had never seen it. I turned away quickly, pretending not to notice. My chest tightened in a way I couldn't explain. The broken armor. Over the next several days, she stayed in the corner of my workshop, watching me work. Her presence was quiet, but it filled the room like a gravity well. I learned little things about her, not through words but through observation. Every morning she cleaned a tiny shard of armor she kept in a pouch, too small to reattach, too warped to have value. She would hold it in her palm, press it to her forehead, and whisper a name. Kaylin. When I finally asked who Kaylin was, she didn't answer. Just placed the shard back into its pouch. The armor itself resisted my repairs. It was semi-organic, bioneural, laced with filaments that pulsed like veins. My equipment barely understood it. Every fix I applied was undone within hours. It wasn't just damaged, it was grieving. That was the only word that made sense. Finally, after several frustrating attempts, I told her, "If you want this repaired properly, you'll need to let me link with its neural field." Her eyes narrowed. "That is forbidden. Then you'll need a Kareth technician. I can't work blind." There was a long pause. The hum of the workshop dimmed to the faint whir of air filters. Then finally she said, "Do it. But if you see what you should not, I will end you." The link. The interface coil hummed as I pressed it against the armor. The neural field flared, violet and silver waves running through the semi-organic plates. A second later my vision blurred, then split. For an instant I wasn't in my body anymore. I was seeing through hers. The armor was reliving something. An explosion, a battlefield lit by burning ships. Kareth and human soldiers alike screaming in the storm of plasma fire. A man, taller, same markings as Sarai, was standing before her, his armor shattered. He shoved her backward, taking the brunt of an impact meant for her. White light. Silence. When I pulled out of the link, I stumbled back, gasping. My hands trembled. Sarai was standing rigid, jaw clenched, eyes bright with the same silent tears. "You saw it," she said quietly. "Your brother." "Yes." "Kaelin." She nodded once, then looked away. "He died protecting me." The armor remembers. It was part of both of us once. I frowned. Part of wait. You mean you shared the same armor? She hesitated, then walked to the table and laid her hand on the curved chest plate. Our armor grows with us. It is seeded at birth from the same life strain as our genetic code. Siblings share the same strain until the bond divides in adolescence. But Kaelin and I, ours never fully separated. So when he died, she said softly, part of me did too. The armor knows this. It grieves with me. The realization hit me with the weight of a collapsing hull. No wonder the repairs kept failing. The armor wasn't malfunctioning. It was mourning. Choice. After that, I stopped trying to fix it like a machine. Instead, I began to listen. I used low-frequency resonance scans, gentle energy pulses meant to mimic the armor's organic rhythms. I played back fragments of Kareth neural songs, war chants, but also their laments, the way they encoded emotion in frequency. Slowly, the armor began to respond. Its filaments glowed softly when Sarai entered the room. It hummed when she touched it. The fractures began to knit, not under the welder's heat, but under her presence. Every night after I shut down the shop, she would remain behind. I pretended not to notice her tracing her fingers along the restored surfaces, whispering in her native tongue. I could never understand the words, but I understood the tone: regret, longing, love. On the 6th night, she spoke without me asking. Humans repair what they break. Kareth, bury it. I set down the welder. What do you do when it's both? She looked at me. For the first time, there was something like a smile in her eyes. Thin, weary, but real. Then we decide what deserves to live. Her gaze drifted back to the armor. Kaelin's half of the bond still exists inside it. The neural imprint. The memories. The pain. I realized what she was saying. You want me to remove him. If I am to fight again, I must. Otherwise the armor will not obey. The logic was sound. A warrior could not carry a ghost into battle. But something about it felt wrong. Seen what they shared. That bond wasn't just data, it was life. What happens to the imprint when it's removed? I asked quietly. It dissolves into the data stream. He will be gone. Echo. The next morning, I found her standing outside the workshop, staring at the rising sun over the colony domes. The sky here, Argel Station, was tinted pale green by the atmosphere shield. It gave everything a dreamlike haze. I was raised to believe pain was a distraction, she said without turning. But I have learned it can also be an anchor. It reminds us what we loved. I stood beside her. You don't have to erase him. There might be another way. She looked at me, a trace of skepticism softening her expression. A human offering a Kareth comfort. The universe is strange. Maybe that's what peace is supposed to look like. When I returned to the armor, I started mapping its neural lattice. Tens of millions of microfilaments interwoven with living protein circuits. It was like repairing a memory and a body at once. Deep within that lattice I found something, an echo. Pulse. A whisper. When I amplified it through the translator, I heard a voice. Sarai. It was faint, broken, fragmented, but unmistakably alive. Kaelin, I murmured. Sarai was beside me in an instant. You can hear him. Barely. His imprint still active but decaying. If we stabilize it, maybe we can transfer it to a containment core. Her hands trembled slightly. He would not want that. His duty ended. To keep him trapped would dishonor him. But you're already trapped, I said before I could stop myself. Both of you are. This armor is a tomb right now, not a weapon. Her eyes flared, then softened. You speak as if you know loss. I hesitated. My sister died during the Tyralis breach. I was the one who sealed the blast doors. She was on the other side. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The silence was heavier than the hum of machines. Finally, she said, "Then you understand." He nodded. Enough to know that forgetting isn't healing. The restoration. We worked together after that, not just on the armor but on what was inside it. I tuned the neural field. She supplied emotional resonance through song. The Kareth songs weren't just melodies. They were coded energy vibrations that communicated directly with bioneural systems. Over time, the armor began to stabilize. The fissures closed. The inner hum smoothed into rhythm. Then one night, as we synchronized the final layer of neural threads, a low tone filled the room, so soft it was almost inaudible, like a sigh through metal. Sarai. The voice again, stronger now. The armor shimmered faintly with violet light. She froze. Kaelin. I looked at the monitors. The imprint was reassembling, data threads converging. It wasn't resurrection. It was memory. One last echo gathering itself for a goodbye. Do not mourn, the voice said. You live. That is enough. Her tears floated again. Small orbs of light drifting upward before vanishing. Forgive me, she whispered. Always, the voice replied. Then the lights dimmed, the pulse faded, and silence returned. The armor settled into stillness. No longer broken, no longer grieving. The departure. The next day, the workshop felt empty even though she was still there. It's whole again, I said quietly, running a hand over the smooth surface. You can wear it. She nodded. It will respond now. You repaired more than metal. I just helped you listen, I said. She looked at me then, really looked. Her silver eyes meeting mine with something beyond gratitude. You are not like most humans I have known. I could say the same about you. She smiled faintly. When we first met, I thought you would treat me as an enemy. Instead, you treated me as if I were still alive. Because you are. She stepped closer. Our customs forbid attachment to those outside our kind. But customs change, eventually. The air between us felt charged, but neither of us moved. Some distances aren't meant to be crossed, not yet. She activated her armor. The plates shifted, wrapping around her like liquid metal, sealing into seamless unity. The light in the seams pulsed once, strong, sure. I will leave for the Dominion outpost tomorrow, she said. They will need to see that peace is possible. He nodded. Tell them a human repaired your armor. She tilted her head. And that I cried in front of him. If you want them to believe it was real. For a moment I thought she might laugh. Instead she simply said, Goodbye, repairer. When she walked out, the door hissed shut behind her. The workshop fell silent. Epilogue. Weeks passed. The ceasefire held, though rumors said skirmishes flared at the borders. I went back to repairing mining bots and shuttle hulls. But sometimes late at night, I'd glance at the corner of the room where she used to sit, watching me work, and the air would feel heavier, like it remembered. One evening, a small capsule arrived through the courier relay. No sender listed, just a Kareth insignia burned into the side. Inside was a fragment of silver armor, smooth, reflective, warm to the touch. Attached was a message. The bond endures. Sarai Viwin. I set the shard on the shelf above my workbench. Under the fluorescent light, it shimmered faintly, as if alive. Sometimes when the room is quiet, I could swear I hear a faint hum, a whisper of the armor, the echo of a brother, the memory of a woman who once cried in silence while I repaired the only thing she had left. And every time I hear it, I remember that even across species, across wars, across death itself, connection is something you don't fix. You honor it.